So we are in a huddle. So let's take advantage of this opportunity to ask your questions. I also want to thank and congratulate those of you who've travelled and made an effort to be here. And I know when you set out that, you know, should I do it, is it worth it, blah, blah, blah. And hopefully that we've performed in a way that you feel that on your drive home that you're glad you did it. And time will tell, but that was our intent. I know there are many millions of people. We're in a city of 13 million, and you know, you've driven further than anyone in the city of Los Angeles has, or flown further than them to get here. So I commend you for your effort, and you could potentially be on the way to joining some of these others who go a long way to see me. They've just all come back from Massachusetts, from Boston. Okay, he's kicking it off.
When you're, you showed us the behind the neck press and behind the neck pull down, and I assume when you're teaching that you start with a shorter range. I mean, to teach that skill, would you start with a shorter range of motion with the proper skill and progressively increase the range?
Not with simple movements like that.
Or can you start?
I can start with the full range, but more complex movements like the squat and the deadlift, I might limit the range.
Right. But if the athlete can't get to the proper form, you still think you can teach the full movement?
Well, I can teach technical adaptations pretty quickly.
Okay.
But I can't change flexibility limitations.
Mm-hmm.
And the squat and the deadlift are more subject to those limitations. The others, if you reduce the load, you can normally get the outcome.
Okay.
Whereas in a squat and deadlift, you can reduce the load and you're still not going to get the outcome sometimes.
Okay.
So rather than frustrate the athlete, I'll reduce the range. So typically the greatest frustration for an athlete, say in the deadlift, is off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Achieving the pelvic shape and maintaining the pelvic shape and the angle of the trunk coming off the ground. So, you know, part one, part two, first pull, second pull. So I often, sometimes default by starting them a bit higher, because I don't want frustration. If they're an athlete that's prone for frustration, I avoid frustration. And I sneak it down when they think they're competent for it. It takes a few weeks, it's okay. There was an interesting example. I had some collaboration with an NBA strength coach in the late 80s, early 90s, and you know, everyone has their own perspective as to how low to start. I believe that no matter how tall an athlete is, I ultimately want to have them operating at the level that will allow them to compete with everybody in their sport. So for example, you might be a 7-footer in basketball. You're still going to want at some point in time to dribble the ball low, potentially. You might want to Kyrie Irving yourself and you dribble low. Or you might be competing for the ball on the ground. I also think that the function of the muscle is enhanced, as we've talked about, by having a fuller range. And the strength, the end range, as used on the court, will be stronger if the end range is at a lower or a more extreme angle in the gym. So I personally place the development of range ahead of load. I will allow some load creeping up, but I'm not interested in making them strong as a house until I've got the load. Well, actually, I'm really interested in making them strong as a house anyway. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But to teach what we teach and the way we teach it, you know, you're not going to learn that by hearing about it. Mm-hmm. You're not going to learn how to teach it by just watching me teach it on video. To be able to teach it and to teach it effectively, you're probably going to have to be in our real world opportunities, and I'm not selling it. And you know, we had that conversation last night when I said, you know, hopefully you've learned Dad's the better parent. You know, you need mum want to go in more often because you don't need mum. That wasn't about selling come away with me. But the reality is, coaches who go to real life learning environments under supervision on how they coach are going to learn faster. Mm-hmm. As some other people learn when they test.
Does behind the neck press, does that fit in with the control drill of, I believe, was Scarecrow?
Absolutely.
I mean, that
is the same plane, and that is the one that should be done to lead up. It absolutely needs to be done to lead up to that drill. But that is exactly the same. So I have fairly simple planes, and I stick to those planes. Mm. So a front press is not in the same plane. I mean, it's the same general plane, but on a continuum, it's drifting away. Mm-hmm. So I want everything to be in the purest plane. And I have very simple lines, and I work those lines. So, I've established 4 in the upper body and 2 in the lower body and 4 plus 2 in the trunk, so there's not that many.
Right.
And I stick to the pure line. So I identify which is the best exercise on my continuum of exercises. So until I placed exercises on continuum and talked about progressions and regressions, etc., no one really thought about it like that. So I systemized program design. And the exercise that you treat as your base exercise impacts the outcome at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And in my How to Teach book, I think it's probably one of the best books for you to learn about this sort of thing. One of our lowest sellers, but one of our most important ones in terms of program design, second to the How to Write book. I may even do it in the How to Write book. I'm pretty clear, these are my core exercises for those lines of movement. 20 years later, they still are.
Mm-hmm.
I have questions about rehab.
Well, what are we waiting for, Chris? I enjoy pregnant silence. There's no issues there.
I don't know if you have any suggestions for how I can rehab my right scapula.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're asking. First of all, you have to be prepared for this philosophy. If you don't work out how to do it, I keep finding the solution. Because often when an individual, without professional guidance or without really astute professional guidance, won't have the answer first time up. And sometimes I won't even have the first time up, but I succeed in part because of my attitude. I will find a way. We will find a way. I am positive and optimistic in my determination that we'll get a result. So you have to understand that there's no end point here. We can't say, well, in 2 weeks' time, whatever you're going to do is going to work for you. But having said that, once you master the path and understand the basics, it's pretty simple. We return the connective tissue around that joint to optimum length, optimum tension, providing you an opportunity to develop optimal stability, and then overlay that with your postural approach. It's that simple. Now, getting to that point requires some discernment, some wisdom, emotional control, and some skill set or competence. That's where the not so simple comes in. The competence simple, but the execution has a little bit more to it than that. Do you have my injury, shoulder injury DVD?
No.
That would be a good starting point to guide you. But there are other resources along the way that can help you. So remember, until your shoulder is sitting where you want it to sit and performing like you want to perform, it's not good enough, it's not over. And what you've done is, how many years have you been carrying that thing for?
No, this is a
recent one?
couple months, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You've created that imbalance in a couple of months? You
I
told me you haven't been training much lately.
I actually got it while doing the book muscle stuff with the pullover. Just how it first.
Okay, so when you just like, I could be tying my shoelaces and I hurt my back, which wasn't the time the shoelaces that hurt my back.
Right.
Your back was in a condition that was ready to,
Right.
you were on the edge,
Yeah.
nearly touching the wall, so to speak. Wow. So you had a pre-existing condition of the joint, like the joint was heading in a certain direction.
Yeah.
We talked about, you weren't even aware of it. Remember that performance check before for conscious awareness?
Yep.
So you need to back off in your loading, prioritise length, tension and stability work. And look for improvement.
I've been doing as much massage as I can. in that
Good, but what have
area.
I just said? Length, tension, stability. So what's the massage going to do?
Tension.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And length will give you another access of tension. So you're missing a few components.
Mm-hmm. What I try to do, things such as anything involving scapular retraction, it's even with very, very light weights or no weight, it seems like it's still.
Okay, well there's more to shoulder health than that. The 3 main lines of movement for your shoulder are depression, retraction and external rotation of the upper arm.
Mm-hmm.
So they're the 3 that you need to optimise back to full health. And they're the lines of movement. Let's talk about the stability exercise, the control drills. Let's not talking about your stretching and your tension work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really simple. If you might have a rehab program where you might go in, you might stretch, you might strengthen through the stability drills, the control drills, and then later in the day you might do some rehab tension work on it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you wanted to be following the mainstream paradigms, you could go and do your rolling first, but it doesn't really matter in that regard. You can do your stretching work, go and do your lifting and do your tension work at another time.
So for stretching relevant to this, it would be chest and lats?
Absolutely. What do you think? Well, I'm going to guess you're right-handed.
it's complicated. I write with my left hand, but I
You do the heavy work with the right, yeah, I understand. So why I said is that is because you probably had a pre-existing internal rotation, rounding of the shoulder and the pressing of the shoulder. So those muscles will all play.
Mm.
So absolutely. Chest, lats and external rotators.
Okay.
They're your main ones. So your neck's going to get tied up, your forearms are going to get tied up in it too. So really you need to follow up the body, but you need to pay special attention to those.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do something on your non-injured side that you can't do to the same extent on your injured side, that's your yardstick. Get it back to where they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine at some point this you would be restricted in some regard on your injured side.
So what you're suggesting is stretching, control drills, and lengthening.
Mm-hmm. Very simple.
You said stretching twice.
Stretching, control drills.
Control drills. You said like.
And then, tissue work, I meant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess it is, both of those are lengthening.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, and this is where
And
the
then
world
walk
has
in the
moved,
woods.
the world has moved in a different direction, because of the desire to prevent you from stretching and actually getting healthy, you've been given a little bit of a morsel, a little bit of a taste of something. So you're allowed to do tension work before you lift it, but you can't stretch. Again, I'll sell you the rolling device, if you understand what I'm saying. Whereas if you go and stretch up your body, you're going to use a wall, the chin bar that's already in place, I'm not going to be able to sell you anything for your pre-training stretch. So why the hell would I allow the faces of my business, the people that I'm paying and empowering to be the gurus in the industry, to market you to do a training method that I'm not going to commercially benefit from? I'm not. So I can sell you a foam roller. I used to sell it in the pool shop for 50 cents. Now I can sell it for $2. I'm on 400% the margin, and I'm going to pay a little bit to my poster boys. They'll sell their soul for the possibility to be gurus in the industry. They're going to tell you what you need to know, what I want you to know, so that you buy my equipment. So what's more effective to prepare for a workout? Absolutely stretching. What are you going to be told at the moment? Wherever the money lies. There's no money in stretching. Well, there will be one day. When they give up on this battle and then when they work out how to sell more toys, when they've got a stretching catalogue that's as big as the other shit that they've got in their catalogue, then you might be allowed to stretch. Sorry, Tom. You're overloaded, aren't you?
Just have a lap going on.
Yeah, exactly. So don't panic on it. It's okay to know that there might be 700 million things that you don't know, but just focus on this week I'm going to get better at 1 or 2. This month I'm just going to be better at 2. I've spent my entire career saying, hey, this is the next thing that I want to master. Let's get this done. And then go to the next thing. It's always, life doesn't stop, does it? There's always something more that you want to master, so never get overwhelmed by it. Just accept it. People ask me a question, I say pretty quickly, I don't know. But the people who are willing to acknowledge that they don't know move faster in life. Those who pretend to be experts, and that's why it's easy for me, because so many of gurus, and these are loosely, have the answer. I don't have the answer. I don't know until I read your body. I can give you some general guidelines. So I sound pretty silly in the marketplace when I say I don't know.
Yeah, I say that all, or I think that I say that all the time. And there's times where someone will come in with a certain issue, and I'll think, like, based on reading their body, I'll think, I know exactly what this is based on my experience and what I know, and it won't be that.
Exactly, you've got to be open.
I'll be able to bag it in 1 second
Yes.
because I have no emotional connection with my original hypothesis.
Yes.
And then through deductive reasoning, figure out what it is
Absolutely.
really quickly and easily.
We don't need to know, we just need to be able to read the body and respond to the messages. Test the cause and effect relationships and adjust the set of your sail in the direction the body's telling you to go in. So simple.
Yeah.
But if you're not taught how to read the body, if you're taught that A equals B and B equals C, and this is how it has to be done, it's a very frustrating and unfulfilling path. So we have a slightly different approach. And the ability to read the body is phenomenal. The depth to which you can go to read the body, body language, tissue tension, length, joint interaction, goes on and on and on. It's a beautiful thing. And as you'll find as you stone path that you're on, you're going to separate yourself from the masses so fast. Now, the fact that people don't know what you're doing, don't understand what you do is irrelevant. Those who, for whatever reason, open their minds up and work with you are going to be blown away and tell people that other people will come. We build demand for our services very quietly, because I only need one extremely excited person to go and tell 2 people, and my business is on its way.
When we talked about, this is yesterday, we talked about my wellness questionnaire, which is how well you slept, how sore you are, how you're feeling, and you wanted me to add another category. I think it was about joint health, I believe. You said that was missing.
So, it's great what you're doing, but they're not open-ended questions.
Right.
You asked, you to sleep,
1 to 5 ratio.
But the other one was muscle soreness. So muscle soreness, for me, if you listed all the indicators of readiness to train, that wouldn't be that high. It'd be there, but wouldn't be that high. Wouldn't be number 2. The tough thing with the multi choice, though, isn't it? Like, you've almost got to ask a closed question in a multi choice response. If there's an opportunity to ask an open-ended question, that'd be ideal. But I'm not saying you can.
Well, it is definitely it's not just a number. It's another vehicle for conversation with your athlete, basically.
Okay.
I mean, that's how I use it.
There's one question that the athlete gets asked in our protocols every single time we meet up with them. How's your body? It's open and it's simple.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not quantifiable. It's a qualitative question, not a quantitative question. So we're not asking 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, we're saying, how's your body? So that is the most important question. Now, if you have to ask quantitative questions, you have to be more specific than that. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
So there should be some sort of pain thing in there. It should be, do you have any injuries today? Do you have anything any aggravation in the body that might impact the way you train? Would be a question you can ask. If you needed to have a quantifiable question.
Right. Okay.
So the challenge, if you're dealing with a lot of athletes, I don't know how many athletes you're dealing with, but one of the greatest excuses used in large programs is we've got so many athletes we can't individualise. So, I can deal with hundreds and hundreds of athletes and find a way to individualise it. There's always a way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any special considerations for people who have stopped strength training for a long time and returning to it versus a total beginner? Because I'll tell you, like, when I was doing the Book of Muscle routine, like I'm still on the beginner program, stage 2. For some of the single leg exercises, like let's say the king deadlift.
Yeah.
My reps went up I started off very low, maybe I could do 4 or 5 reps, and then I got up to maybe 10 or so reps.
Yeah.
But one thing that I noticed is that to do those 10 reps, it really wiped me out. Like it.
Right.
And I imagine if I was more of a beginner with 0 background, I might have been doing much lower reps, like 1, 2, 3 reps for a long time, and it wouldn't have wiped me out as much.
Yeah.
So I think the wiping me out is causing, like, I'm hitting. You've written, I think, in your books that you should only feel smashed like sometime, like some of the time, and not all the time. Like I'm feeling smashed.
Okay. Well, let me give you some
A
insights
lot
here.
of the time.
Generally speaking, any athlete can bring on that level of fatigue by their decisions on load, so volume and intensity. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
So if you, generally speaking, 75% of the time, you're going to make decisions that bring you to a certain level of fatigue, but that's not extreme. And only for 20 to 25% of the time you're going to be more extreme levels. But what you're facing, I believe, and I've yet to write my Get Buff book for older athletes. And believe me, it's in the pipeline. I just don't know when I get it done, but I will do it, provided I have a natural term in my life, because I'm going to need that. Because I've got so many things, projects planned. The Get Buff series will be a 7-book series. It'll be the longest series, already is, but it will definitely be the longest series in the history of the industry. Of relevant, meaningful information that's sequential, not just the new rules of bullshit, the next day. New rules how to tie my bootlace that someone else wrote. So what's happening for you is that the older you get, you go to train with the same rules that you used when you were younger. and your body recovery has changed. Substantial. So that which smashed us when we were young had to be pretty extreme. And we get to the middle age and we go, geez, I'm spending more time tired. I'm trying to do the same approach, like the same level of effort. Ultimately, the older you get, conditioning aside, because if we stay conditioning, your recovery capacity is lower, full stop, and you need to adjust your decisions about volume and intensity. And obviously I need to educate better on that, and I will do that in that Get Buff book I'm speaking about. I'm really hanging out to write it.
Are there things that you could recommend that I do outside of the gym that would help conditioning, I guess, to
Absolutely.
just walking maybe?
Well, it's not just about
Nice.
like you do want to have some sort of heart and lung work that's low intensity, but walking or cycling, but it's more than that. Your sleep management is critical, your nutrition is critical. If you are not using a high potency, high quality multivitamin, you're kidding yourself. There's so many things that you can be doing to ensure that your recovery levels are optimised. Now, I work hard, I train not as hard as I used to, but I'm getting older and I've got to optimise. There are some things I have to do with great discipline, and that's where nutrition comes in. That's where, probably not don't get as much sleep as I'd like, but my nutritional supplement program is pretty strong. And people just aren't willing to do the extras. They just hope that the body's going to perform for them in the same way it did when they're 20, when they're 40. It's not going to. And in fact, between the ageing process and degenerative joint conditions, our work capacity is reduced.
For, let's say, the 40 and up, or I don't know, 40 to 50, 50 to 60 crowd, how many days of the week would you say is a good?
Fantastic.
Because I'm doing 2. I took the 3-day-a-week in Book of Muscle, and I'm doing,
Good.
I did 2.
Good. 2 to 3. Now, there are very few people that can tolerate 4, and when I say, let's be real clear, we need to separate between drug use and non-drug use. I know, if you're on hormone replacement therapy, you're still using support.
Yep.
So I'm talking about clean people, as in not using any synthetics. In that age group, 2 to 3. Now, I do my best to stay with 4, but I've been unbroken on that for so many decades that I've got a condition for it, and even then, with my time, I don't always get it all in. But it is my goal personally to maintain 4 for as long as I can. But believe me, I don't go anywhere as near as hard in each of those workouts. Because I would prefer, see, there's a trade-off between volume and intensity. I prefer to train 4 times a week, because it allows me to focus on with more specialisation. But if I did that with the same intensity I used to, I couldn't do it. So make a decision about your frequency and adjust your intensity to match it. Now, as you get older and your life commitments get greater, 2 to 3 is more than adequate. I have a lot of familiarity with this subject because I've worked with a lot of athletes who are now in their 40 to 60 age range that I worked with when they were in their teens and their 20s, and we often have this conversation. So 2 to 3. I'm less concerned by your frequency. I'm more concerned about your commitment to long-term training. Because the number that train in their 20s and 30s and the number that are still training in their 40s and 50s without hormone replacement or other hormone is very low. And doesn't need to be that way. So understand that you won't be able to go as hard or as often as you did when you were young. Because your recovery levels diminish over time, full stop. Great subject. And I enjoy because, as I said, a lot of the athletes I worked in the 80s and 90s are really in this category. And when I see them, and some of them aren't in the best shape in terms of they've let their health go, they've let their body composition go. Like an athlete who's been at the peak of their game, I don't expect them to hold that peak. But I hope that after a few years into retirement that they right the ship a little bit. So I let them go into retirement for years, I let them go into the pasture and just relax for a few years and hopefully get them back into some sort of habit that's going to serve them going in life. Because they're the ones that actually with the most stuffed bodies because they've pushed their bodies and pushed their joints farther than anyone else.
For people like this, I mean, are they still competing in athletics?
Some are still doing recreational sport. And some are competing in sort of low-level amateur sport, but most of them are flat out just being active. So there's a real diversity in that.
For like a typical general pop, is there even any point in adding quad dominant? Or?
No, not much at all. Really faded out.
Okay.
The irony for me is that when you're young, you want to pump your guns. And I'm not myself, because I was disciplined in that area. Well, and I was in an environment where you were socially discouraged to do it. So I was in weightlifters and powerlifters in an area where if you did it, as a weightlifter, you couldn't catch the bar. If you did as a powerlifter, you got to rip your bicep off your arm anyway. So we just didn't do much arm work. Now, that's not everyone in that category, but that was my influence. When you're young, get your legs strong, because when you get old, the joint that's most likely to degenerate is the knee joint and the hip joint, and you won't be able to do too much leg work. You can do your guns then, if you know what I'm saying. So if you're ever going to get your legs organised, do it while you're young.
I guess would the same thing apply to horizontal push for general pop? It seems like not as, because it's generally like I'm sitting all day. What is the point of even adding more?
Absolutely. Well, I can tell you this. Personally, in my age bracket, I'm leading in the week less with horizontal pushing than I did when I was younger. So when I was younger, 75% of my year training program, early in the week I do a bench, or horizontal pushing, right? 75% of the time now, I'm doing it later in the week. You with me?
Yeah.
So I've switched that around for that very reason. And not because I suffer from sitting excessively, although I do sit excessively. The joint damage that I've had from sport, lifting, and impact in other aspects of life, I'm happy if I can feel my hands when I wake up in the morning. Like if I go to pick something in the morning and I have nerve supply in my hands, I'm happy. Most of the time, it takes a few minutes for it to come back. Now I'm being really blunt and honest with you, but that's the reality of an athlete who's gone home when they're young, punished their shoulders. I have no intention of having shoulder surgery, never have. I have no intention of having joint replacement. So I've listened to the messages and I've backed off. And people don't know just how many joint replacements in the shoulder are happening. People who really went hard. So I might not have been the strongest person in the world, but when you're getting up close to the loads I've lifted on your shoulders, it takes its toll over and above the other things I've done. So celebrate the opportunity to feel your fingers. So when I go out in my Ducati racer, for example, after about 30 minutes, I have to stop and go home because I can't feel my hands. And I'm doing different work on different bikes, different off-road bikes. I just enjoy having nerve supply down my hands. So cherish that and don't compromise it because you want to look buffed or. So yes, you need to change your priorities in the way you train.
I'm actually thinking of just dropping all the chest exercises in Book of Muscle.
Good.
Like is that
Absolutely.
That'd be
Absolutely.
like pec fly, forget it.
Good. I like meeting people like you because you're the minority. I wish more people would do it. And I'm not saying you've got to drop forever, but you might need to correct it. See, this is the reality about horizontal pushing and pulling. I've promoted the need to balance it out. But the action-reaction basis you're driving off is completely different. When you're on a bench, think of the size of the bench you're driving off. It's a big bench.
Yeah.
You got your feet on the ground. So if you measure the surface area you're driving off on a bench, let's say it's this. When you're doing a pulling movement, a horizontal pulling movement, what's your support base? At best, your feet on the ground. You with me? It's about 25% of the surface area. So the fact that you can row up to 60 to 70% is good. So what I'm saying of your bench is good. What I'm saying is that there's an inherent discrepancy between horizontal pushing and horizontal pulling that can only be overcome by deadlifting. So if you're not deadlifting, and you continue to bench at that ratio of say 60 to 75% pulling to your benching, you are gone. And it's not because the lats are weak. It's not because you're bad. It's because of the biomechanical reality of the action-reaction area is 25% of a bench. So if you're not deadlifting, do not expect to even equal the time spent benching as you do rowing. Your rowing volume needs to exceed it.
Yeah.
So you might go through a phase where no horizontal pushing, then slowly phase it back in. Initially later in the week, 25% of the volume compared to the rowing movements, etc.
I haven't even got to deadlifts yet.
Well, most people don't. Most people don't, because if you don't, the thing with deadlift, people can squat with a shitty technique and kind of get away with it, but it'll damage them over long term. You deadlift with a shitty technique, and you're going to injure real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So deadlifting is far less popular than a squat for that reason alone.
Yep.
And I get it.
Plus it's way harder.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And it takes, and you don't really impress your buddies. Like, whoever takes a picture of their ass, but how many selfies do you see where, I'm standing in the mirror, hey, look at my quads? I saw one today. I saw one today with Blake, who's solicitor in Australia, who's just been jailed a few months ago, and I think he was trying to show his prison mates, don't mess with me, because look at these sticks. But, nobody ever takes a picture of their hamstrings, do they?
Yep.
So, if you're not deadlifting, you have to drop your ratios of pushing, horizontal pushing and pulling.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that you could do a program that is, it's more than 3 times a week, but it's one exercise a day, like bench one day, squat one day, row one day?
You can do anything you want. We've talked about this.
But it's only one
It
exercise.
doesn't matter.
It's still a stimulus.
There's still a stimulus.
Okay.
And the recovery of a neuromuscular stimulus is different than the muscular or metabolic stimulus. And so you can do any combination you want.
Sure.
But do not, as I said before, with this popularity I've seen in the last few decades, let's go double A train, like in the Bulgarians double A train, triple A train, let's double A train. Instead of doing a 60-minute workout, let's do 2 30s. It's the same, it's not the same. A 2 30-minute workout will have far greater recovery demand than a 1 60-minute workout in a day. How do I know? Well, we've been there. We've done all those experiments. You can't underestimate the impact of frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to do more frequency, you don't have time in the day, or because you just want to do it more days of the week? The other challenge for me is this. When I take my off-road bike out, or when I go out with my little racing team, what do we need to do to the bike first? We have to check that there's petrol in the tank, we check that the oil levels are appropriate, we check that the coolant levels are appropriate, we have to ensure that the air filter is clean, we have to change the oil X so many hours, we have to lube the chain every time, then we have to warm the bike up stationary, warm the bike up mobile, check the chain tension is right. How long does that take? I don't have to do all that every time, but I'm telling you, it will take me 15 minutes on average to work out like tyre pressure every single time we go out. Because if we're going to the racetrack and we got anything that's wrong, we can damage the bike and damage ourselves. So every time I take a bike, it takes me 15 minutes. Now, let's say I just rode for 10 minutes. It doesn't change my warm-up requirement on the bike. I've still got to do that 15 minutes. So if you probably, when you go to training, you might be overlooking the optimal warm-up period. So someone at my age and with my mileage, I like to have at least an hour and a half to warm up for a lower body workout. Now, if I said I'm just going to do 15-minute workouts every day because I'm spreading my load out, that's a lot of warm-up. I can't take the motorbike out, even for 15 minutes, without going through those steps. It's not good for the bike. It's not good for my body, your body to do it without it either. So that's a consideration that you might be overlooking. Because if you just go in there and load your body, you'll pay the price in the long run. Which most people do. And the self-inflicted damage in our world is just mind-boggling. Well, it's good for the physical therapist industry. You're very solid, Tom.
I'm listening.
I think considering some of you now with being with me for 7 days, and the first 5 of it were what time did we start? 7 o'clock in the morning with me till 10 o'clock at night.
And every time we were eating,
Sometimes
we were
later.
recording discussions.
So 16 hours a day with me, 5 days in a row, and now you've done 2 kind of ordinary days, normal length days with me, like only about 9 hours. So I understand you're pretty burnt out.
I was thinking about webinar.
So he's probably getting towards the end of our little huddle. And therefore, if you've exhausted your questions, we will shortly be wrapping. It's important that if you have questions, you do them now so that we can leverage the answers. But other than that,
I'm gonna ask one last.
sure.
But this is something I have actually asked before, but I maybe didn't fully sink in. But scapular position in the deadlift, how much should
Okay.
be retracted?
This is a good point. There's a few variables here. One of the biggest variables is sometimes when people scapular retract, they compromise the shape of their spine. Now, if a mum said to the child, pull your shoulders back, what does the back do?
Oh, they might go like this.
You create an arch in the back, whether it's an arch in the thoracic or the lower.
Mhm.
So sometimes you'll cue someone on their retraction and it results in a change in the spinal shape we don't want. That doesn't mean it's bad, it just means it's not the outcome we want. So you've got to make an adjustment. You either back off on the scap retraction a little bit, or you teach them how to control the spine, or both.
Mhm.
So it's not a clear-cut one. All we want to know is that we want to have an awareness of the need to do it. How much we do it depends upon the individual.
Okay. So I mean, it definitely shouldn't be like completely relaxed. There should be some amount of.
Well, I believe
Cool.
so, but that's just my approach. I believe that you should set it. And one of the reasons is, and this is the same thing, when you come off the ground with a deadlift, you remember the old days when you towed a car with a rope? Is anyone old enough the days when you could tow a car with a rope? Your car broke down and someone towed you with a rope. Now, if you were here and the rope was slack and then you snapped out here, there's a chance that the rope would break. So we'd always kind of edge carry, get tension on the rope, and then we'd build up momentum or overcome inertia and move forward from there. So if you're coming off the ground, and let's say you're coming off the ground lower than your arms, and your arms are here, and you're snapping it up to there, there's a risk that you might tear something or collapse in your shape. So what we want to do off the deadlift is, okay, set the cheeks, set the stomach, set the shoulder blades, take the tension on the bar, and now we're going to ease into takeoff and get into it from there. So it's not just about scapular positioning, it's about taking the slack out of the chain.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, one of the hardest things from a competitive power to do is finish the lockout. So if they've collapsed too much and then they've got to finish off, they might not finish it off. But that's irrelevant to the most lifters,
Right.
and I get that. But we just want to have the scapula in an optimal position to be strong in that position. So if we're out here and we come up, we're strengthening them here. But if we're here and we stand up, we're strengthening in that position. So in the ideal world, I want to strengthen them in the position that I want them to have their postural model in.
Mhm.
But I might have to back off a bit if it's compromising something else.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful subject because you get more, well, I've told you, it's the only way to balance your bench press.
Yeah.
And the lat development from deadlifting is sensational. You just don't develop. Franco Colombo, if you're old enough to remember,
Yeah.
lat depth without, that sort of old deadlifting or rowing.
But in a nutshell, most of it kind of reflects on your question, is we want to have this flat back scapular in almost everything that we've shown.
Yes.
That's the key
That's the shape.
ingredient, is that shape of this flatness
Absolutely.
in deadlift, squat, over behind the neck, pull down,
Pushing, pulling,
chin, everything
everything.
that is the key,
Mhm.
the shape.
Yep.
That
Mhm.
shape is the key thing for transfer.
Exactly. Because
That-
everything we do, we want consistency. The way you sit is the way you stand, is the way you walk, is the way you run.
Right,
So
or the
everything-
way you swim.
Exactly. Everything we teach has to have congruency across the board.
Mhm.
So I can't teach in the gym to do this and then get you on track to do this.
Mhm.
I can't have you collapsing in the anterior rotation in the gym and then get in the pool and say, now we need you to maintain a stable flat spine with your
Exactly.
legs. So the way I teach has got consistency through strength training, speed training, and sports performance.
Mhm.
Because it's not about what you're doing here and here, it's about the sports performance.
Mhm.
So I've developed models of consistency to go right through. So that my postural model is the same model that I use in most of my running technical teachings, and then it's the same model that most road sport athletes would use in their sport. So the consistency is sensational. And the deeper you dig, the more you'll see. And what sort of coaches comment on me? They're saying, I didn't appreciate just how much thought you've put into creating consistency right across the board. So I won't do something in the gym if it breaks my consistency. I'll give up on that. Wherever everyone will look at it and I say, geez, well, we've got to lift more weight. No, we're not, because it'll break my consistency.
And even though there are lifters in the competitive world that can lift more weight because they don't need that.
But you've got to remember this.
And that's the model that some people follow.
Absolutely. In strength training, if you displace a load, an external load, from point A to point B, you get rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
Your sense of fulfillment, like complete the rep, or in a competition, there's a few rules as to how you do it, but you've done it. Now, if that model of recruitment, if that model of joint relationships is not congruent with the way I want to locomote in other forms of training, or the way I want to locomote in my sport, it is completely inappropriate. So most of what they do in powerlifting is irrelevant to sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say this more strongly in the future, and I understand it's going to upset a few people, and that's not my purpose. But we're seeing, in the same way that I spoke about kettlebells, we're seeing too much of this stuff come through and being sold as your panacea for the athlete. Mm-hmm. There is very little about powerlifting that should be modelled by an athlete. Very little. And yet, professional development organisations continue to fly in powerlifters because they're big and strong, and they've got the answer. They've got a message. They don't have much message at all. I don't need more than one hand to tell you the things that I take from powerlifting into sport, the way it's being conducted. Mm. There's very few. So there's no reward in displacement of the load in sport. There's only a reward for the way you used your muscles and your bones to complete the movement you needed to do to win in your sport. Load displacement is irrelevant. I can use any leverage, party trick, biomechanical trick. I can widen my stance, I can widen my grip, I can put a belt on, I can shorten my range, I can bounce a little bit. It's irrelevant. Mm-hmm. I would rather use no load and maintain my shape and my movement pattern than use load and compromise it. Full stop. And there's probably nobody in the world that I'm aware of with any level of influence who would share my views. But there's really nobody in the world who's speaking out who also impacts the number of athletes I have historically. And now that doesn't make you popular in this genre because it's not really a sport. They use sport to promote themselves, but not really heavily involved. I only do my stuff to help athletes. If I've had any promotion in other genres like bodybuilding or strength training for end users, it's only as a spin-off of what I've done. It's like something I've done in my spare time. Mm-hmm. I started as servicing athletes. The demand was so great I turned to business, and the entire company history has been based on servicing athletes. So we have no interest in complying with the dominant beliefs of the industry. It's a strength dominant. The over-bias of strength training in this industry is ridiculous, and the lack of awareness of shape and
load.
And the over-emphasis on load, but the lack of awareness of shape and the lack of the awareness that I need to have consistency in my body position throughout is mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. And it might be unfair for me to criticise because really they don't deal with athletes. Mm-hmm. Like I could deal with half a dozen athletes of different sports on any given day. I take these my coaches in a coaching environment for 5 days, and they will be exposed up to a dozen athletes, a dozen different sports in any given week. Like that's all we do is deal with athletes. Mm-hmm. So we've refined and developed a slightly different approach. But I say that when you work with athletes, you find out the answers faster. Because when you work with the general population, the goals are so vague that you can get there anyway, because there is nowhere there. Mm-hmm. But when you're in sport, especially at the Olympic level, now you can be cynical about the IOC and all that sort of stuff. But what I do like is that if it's a unified sport, and not all of them are, like Taekwondo at the Olympics is not a unified sport. But most of the sports, when they get to the Olympic level, there's truly a measurement. This is the best athlete in the world in that discipline. And they got there because they were the best athlete in that discipline. Now, we're hoping to have a medal outcome in the Winter Olympics coming up, and we've just had a medal outcome in a certain sport at a World Cup level in the last week. And I can tell you, 90+% of the athletes in Olympic disciplines, strength training is of a minor correlation with their outcome.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of Olympic disciplines have minimal need for maximum strength training. And yet we're sold in the industry, it's, oh, get bigger, get bigger, get bigger.
Right.
And I did a blog recently where I said, listen, talk to Novak Djokovic, talk to Kevin Durant, talk to the New England Patriots quarterback, Brady, talk, let's get a reality check. The top athletes aren't doing the crap that you're promoting. The reason they're there is because they looked at it and said, no, I don't want to do that. I chewed them up, or they tried and said, no, you're killing me, go away from me. And yet we get this massive body of athletes coming through the college and low-level pro levels doing all this crap and wondering why they can't make it.
What actually does Kevin Durant do that's publicly known, I guess?
Well, I can tell you one thing he's put into public, and that's the challenge. It's tough to know exactly what they're doing, because if you see the articles that have been written about what they do and what you know that they're doing, it's just crazy. It's just, you talk about fake news, I'll give you some Donald fake news. I can't believe some of the crap that's written in American publications what they allegedly do. But Kevin really opened up about his combine experience in the draft. You'll read that full article and you'll be rolling on the ground laughing. He said they mocked me because I was so weak. And the best bloke in there in that combine didn't even get picked, didn't even get drafted. I was the worst, and look at me now. He's basically saying, fuck you. Good on him. But the ostracisation, he said the strength coaches ridiculed me. He wasn't mucking around. He pointed them out, and that's exactly what's happening. The strength coaches have got an emotional attachment. I've learned this stuff from the NSCA. Right. I've got a job. I know what I'm doing. Shut the fuck up and do what I tell you, because if you know, I feel pretty inadequate about myself. I couldn't get to do it. But it is really terrible stuff for the athlete.
And coaches be quiet, I know.
And coaches be quiet.
Yeah.
And if the athletes do it, they're getting destroyed. We're going to do that shit, and we're going to cruel their career to keep them, to meet the emotional needs of a few handful of people who've been over-promoted in their role. This stuff is so off track, it's ridiculous. And yet we're ostracized, and they're mocking athletes for not doing their stuff. I go through this, I see it all the time, it's just sad. If an athlete didn't do the physical preparation that's being offered to them at this point in time, they'd be far better off. Yeah.
Can we touch back on yesterday? We talked about length and tension and how to detect that in an athlete or to monitor that in an athlete. In my recollection, I'm just trying to view that as first, if they have soreness, you ask if it's bilateral or unilateral. If they have it on one side, it's usually a joint relationship, and you try to.
Well, it might be joint, but it might be neural. If it's on two sides, it's not.
It's probably soreness. It's like a muscle.
Yeah.
But if it's on one side, then you try to correct the joint.
We're just trying to find out what it's caused by.
Right.
And
then see if that.
You test it. You do something to them. You create a hypothesis. You do something, and it's okay. I think it's tight because this is short.
Right.
So we lengthen it and we retest it.
And see if that helps.
It didn't change it at all.
Right.
That's how we do it. So within about 1 minute to 5 minutes, I can have a pretty solid idea about what's going on. Because this is my philosophy. If an athlete gets a nickel and I don't knock it off in 24 hours, I've got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And if I haven't got rid of it in 3 days, we've got a real problem. And if in 2 sessions focused on that, we haven't resolved it completely. If someone comes to me and I can't resolve it in 2, what I tell them is if you go to a therapist and you can't resolve it in 2 sessions, you better decide whether you think they can resolve it or get out of there. So I like to make results very quickly, because the longer something stays, you know about my half-life theory. If you have it for a month, it'll take you about 2 weeks to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have it for 24 hours, we'll get rid of it in about 12.
Mm-hmm.
So little leopards become big leopards and big leopards kill. Every serious injury began with an eagle.
Mm-hmm.
We deal with an eagle.
Right.
You're going to get niggles, but if we knock the niggles off, that's all it's going to be.
Right, and if you have some kind of neural numbness, it's usually the joint above
The point.
and then if you reestablish that joint relationship,
Yes.
and it goes away,
You confirm your theory.
you confirm your theory.
So we go into We go into areas that are traditionally held by the physical therapists and others.
Right.
So we don't talk about what we do a lot because we understand that in the mainstream world we'd get a lot more stones thrown at us. But we have an approach to helping the body heal that is far in excess of anything that's being done in the marketplace. We just don't talk about it because we know the dangers of talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, between you and me and the gay post, as it is Australian saying, like behind closed doors, we fix things.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in our care long term, it could take us a few years to clean them up, but we'll empower you to read the body, to do the initial work, and if you can't fix it yourself, you might need to come back and we can address it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got athletes all around the world all the time. I'm not with them all because they're all around the world all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't empower them to deal with their niggles, then they're stuffed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not interested in being with one person here and one person there. I want to help as many people as possible. So we literally empower them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different paradigm and it's a different outcome. So I won't be talking openly about how we do it, but
Sure.
I'll give you general guidelines.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't allow people in our coaching program to get exposure to what I'm talking about to any great extent until quite a few years ago. It's so powerful that we have to ensure that you're ready for it and that you'll treat it with appropriate respect. I call what we do Kung Fu before Bruce Lee, because everyone talks Bruce Lee. Well,
Right.
in the early 70s, and I come from a Chinese community in where I was born. There was a lot of Chinese boys, and when I was at boarding school in Australia, the Chinese boys used to slip off and do what calls they wouldn't tell us what they were doing. It was secret Chinese boys' business. They were doing Kung Fu, and they had no intention of sharing it. But Bruce Lee commercialised it, and took credit for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually liked it before that. No different with Special Forces. The intent of Special Forces is that you're going to do stuff that you're not allowed to tell anybody where you were, what you did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of been broken too. So, everyone wants to be a blockbuster, or, everyone wants to be a Fox News commentator because they put a hole in someone's head. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't agree with that stuff. I believe in being discreet, low key, but it means that you don't market it. You can't go around, a Special Forces person is meant to not be able to say, yeah, well, I was in country X in year such and such, and we killed 15 people here, 20 people there, we blew this up, and we threw the body off the edge and all, it's
Right,
not,
right.
it didn't happen. The philosophy is where you went, what happened didn't happen. So we hold what we do pretty quiet. So it means we're small, but we've learned why we need to do that at this stage. What we do is a bit challenging to the paradigms of the masses. Just the simple stuff is challenging enough.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when I talked about, I think we did a video clip earlier on about 4 reasons why you need to reflect upon whether your power clean, the way you do it, is relevant to your sport. Some really good kind person posted and said, this will ruffle a few feathers, what I choose. They're right, but if they knew everything we do, it'd be more than feathers being ruffled. So we are probably nearly exhausted on that. So hopefully you've enjoyed the opportunity to go one-on-one, because you learn a lot more in this than you would in a book or video. But it is good to see that you're all basically involved in the coaching program. And the deeper you go, the greater appreciation you'll get of what's going on. Because as I said, when you start at level 1, you might have some fears or concerns, but as you go deeper in it, and then you get into level 2, and then you go from there, and you go to level 3 up there in Park City every year we do in August. Next year will be our 15th year in a row up there. Probably the biggest turnout we've had. And it's still relatively small numbers because we don't operate with the 95%, we operate with the 5%ers. And you'll go deeper into the program. Okay, so it would appear that time has come to thank you all for being here, and until next time.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.